Hello, my dear friends. I have I don't know if you call it sad duty, but I have the duty to inform all of you of a very simple fact. The President of the United States of America is a pervert. Understand what I just said. The President of the United States of America is a pervert. Now, you just don't say something like that without backing it up.
When James Carville takes aim at Donald Trump, it isn't debate, it's demolition. The strategist rips apart Trump's ego-driven image, exposing a man remembered less for power and more for chaos. Carville brands him not as a leader but as a rerun nobody asked for. And for a man obsessed with legacy, nothing cuts deeper than being cast as irrelevant.
Dramatic here, but at 1 o'clock on the 17th of January of 2024, I raised a question and pointed out that they were red splotches on Donald Trump's hands, and that could be professional, a sign of syphilis, a venereal disease, a tertiary syphilis, and it can have profound effects if not treated.
James Carville doesn't just criticize Donald Trump, he dissects him with surgical precision. To Carville, Trump is not a commander-in-chief but a cautionary tale dressed in spray tan and oversized red ties. Every word is aimed to scar, not bruise. And once Carville lands the blow, the damage lingers, impossible to erase.
So Trump has gone out of his way to tell us he's a pervert. He's talked about, this is very difficult, I hate to bring this up, but we got to do this. His youngest daughter, I think her name was Tiffany, and was fantasizing about her breast when she was...
From the start, James Carville zeroes in on Donald Trump's obsession with image. A man who preaches strength but builds his persona on smoke and mirrors. Instead of governing, Trump obsesses over ratings, rallies, and crowd sizes. To Carville, this isn't leadership, it's a vanity project masquerading as a presidency.
This is a supplement to what I just did, because I think I brought up a really, really important point here. And, sometimes you always have to evaluate the conclusions you drew because maybe they were erroneous conclusions. And so one of the things that we know for sure is Donald John Trump stinks. In other words, he smells like shit.
The Louisiana-born James Carville doesn't hesitate to paint Donald Trump as a caricature of dysfunction. Every move Trump makes is driven by insecurity, craving applause yet dodging responsibility. To Carville, it's as if Trump is forever auditioning for the role of president while the nation is stuck with the blooper reel. History, he warns, won't remember accomplishments, only the trail of chaos.
Then he talked on Howard Stern about having sex with his oldest daughter. Come on, man. I'm not that sheltered. I'm 80 years old, all right? I've been around the world once. I've been to Arkansas twice. I've seen and heard a lot of shit in my life. I have never, ever heard of anybody fantasizing about having sex with their daughter. You're a pervert.
James Carville has a special gift for tearing into Donald Trump's so-called business legacy. He reminds audiences that Trump isn't a self-made mogul but a man propped up by inheritance, bankruptcies, and branding tricks. To Carville, the Trump empire isn't a monument to success, it's a museum of failure wrapped in gold plating and cheap illusions. The biggest con of all, convincing the world he built it himself.
Fiasco in Canada, where there was a G7 meeting, and of course, he can't stay because, frankly, they don't give a shit about him anymore. He was not the center of attention. And then he holds a press conference with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, of which he has some empty pages that are blowing in the fucking wind that don't have anything on.
Then comes Donald Trump's political style, or the lack of one. James Carville explains that real leaders build coalitions, solve problems, and unite people. Trump does the opposite. He builds feuds, thrives on division, and treats Twitter rants like official policy. He talks tough but crumbles under criticism. To Carville, it's pure irony, a man desperate to roar like a lion but behaving like a wounded house cat.
This man is repetitively, publicly fantasized about having sex with underage females. He was actually asked, well, what age limit you wouldn't go before? And I think his consensus number was 12. Yeah, that's right. Look it up. That's what he said. So I'm not being Clarence Darrow or Louis Brandeis or something. It's a division against interest.
James Carville digs into Donald Trump's toxic relationship with truth. He says Trump's presidency was like a game of two truths and a lie, except the truths never showed up. From inflated numbers to outright fabrications, Trump lied so often that even fact-checkers gave up. Add to that his obsession with loyalty, demanding blind devotion over competence, and Carville paints a picture of a presidency less like an administration and more like a cult.
Event. I guess Trump is human in one sense, in another sense he's not. I really think he is such an odious and despicable man that he should not be accorded the most basic courtesies that one human being would extend to another.
The roast doesn't stop. James Carville mocks Donald Trump's victimhood obsession, a billionaire president whining like an underdog. For all his power, Trump portrayed himself as constantly under attack, cheated by shadowy forces. Carville also hammers the hollow policy record promises of healthcare and infrastructure evaporated into photo ops and slogans. To him, Trump's presidency wasn't progress, it was wasted time chasing headlines instead of history.
I think we have to consider we have to consider the possibility, I want to be very careful with my language here, that Trump is unable to wipe his ass. Yeah, you heard me. It is possible that this man is incapable of wiping his own ass.
James Carville's most brutal strike is personal. He argues that Donald Trump isn't political change, his spectacle. But spectacle always burns out. What once looked bold now looks tired and repetitive. The rallies, the recycled grievances, the endless self-pity, they no longer shock, they bore. To Carville, Trump has gone from showman to rerun, and nothing kills a performer faster than losing the audience.
Human being. I think he is a grotesque, immoral man who is incapable of understanding anything or anybody that's not him. And I'll just be very honest, I cannot stand the son of a bitch. But we've been a lot of people and say you really shouldn't use this language, and I'm trying to think of what can I do to accommodate some of these people, and what I can do is this. I am no longer going to say he can't wipe his ass. I'm going to be sophisticated.
James Carville sums it up. Donald Trump's greatest trick was convincing people he was more than he was. Strip away the rallies, the bluster, the branding, and you're left with a deeply insecure man who mistook applause for authority. For Carville, the tragedy isn't just Trump's failures, it's how easily millions bought into the act. A parody of power, a man who wanted the title but never grasped the job.
So I'm sorry, but to the 10% that said, well, I voted for change, I didn't vote for this, then you are a goddamn idiot. And what my favorite group of people are these Wall Street Trump supporters, these guys worth $6 gazillion. Well, I didn't know he was going to do this. I was surprised that they wasn't thought out. What the fuck has he ever done in his life that's ever been thought out?
By tearing down the illusion, James Carville strikes Donald Trump at his core, his image. A man who lived for perception was suddenly seen for what he was. Carville highlights the absurdity of a president who measured himself by TV ratings and crowd sizes rather than results. In his eyes, Trump's presidency was never about power, it was about applause, a performance disguised as governance.
I do want to press you on one thing, and I appreciate that you have criticized the left wing of your party, James. I truly do.
Right.
And I think that you're right when you say leaning into gender identity and pronouns and the feminine nature of the current message of Democrats is a loser. I have to tell you, James, I also think it's a loser to do something that you have done, and that is to constantly equate President Trump to Hitler, constantly equate this to an authoritarian regime. I think you've got to find a positive message and stop hyperventilating over the dystopian future of America.
I don't know, but there's a lot of evidence to say that Trump, shall we say, has a favorable view of some of these things.
Oh, James.
And I will continue to bring it up, and I always appreciate to be on Fox when I can bring it up to Fox viewers so they can judge how admiring that Donald John Trump is of National Socialism. That's fine.
Okay.
The Louisiana-born James Carville keeps pressing. To him, Donald Trump will be remembered not for achievements but dysfunction. Even his business record, once sold as proof of success, was smoke and mirrors built on bailouts, bankruptcies, and family money. Carville makes it clear Trump's greatest business product wasn't real estate, it was illusion.
Trump's more ahead than he's ever been. It's going the wrong way. It's not working. Everything that we're throwing is spaghetti at a wall, and none of it is sticking, me included. And, we gotta, try to think of something different, because what we're doing is really...
Finally, James Carville rips into Donald Trump's governing style. Where real leaders build bridges, Trump set fires. He treated feuds like strategy, insults like policy, and Twitter rants like history in the making. He loved talking tough but collapsed when challenged. To Carville, he's not a heavyweight fighter, he's a glass jaw swinging wildly until one jab sends him crashing.